So the Muslim socialist immigrant candidate won the primary in New York City. Let me explain why this is good for MAGA. So as crazy as it sounds, the further left candidate might actually result in a red New York sooner than later. Now, the result, which is pretty much completely crystal clear, Cuomo himself has conceded the election. You have Zoran Mandami, pronounce that 5 times. Now, his votes were 43.5% of the electorate. Andrew Cuomo, who was the former governor, scandal-plagued, killed a lot of grandmas in hospitals, allegedly, 36.4% of the vote, lost by 7. Now, what's important about this is that despite not getting a majority, Zoran has the endorsement of a Jewish liberal like Brad Lander, who has 11% of the vote. So you add 11 plus 43 and basically Cuomo's toast. That being said, now we get on to what the policies behind this guy who won really are. Now, I've read through his platform, and as you can see here, it's really bad. Housing, freezing the rent. Rent freezes, by the way, have never worked, but let me show you a video first. Now, keep in mind, this guy's a 33-year-old with virtually no political experience or any accolades, to say the least. Now, his policy on groceries.
Grocery prices are out of control. The cost of eggs and milk has skyrocketed. Some stores are even using dynamic pricing, jacking up the cost over the course of a day depending on what they can get away with. It doesn't need to be this way. I'm Zohran Mamdani, and as mayor, I will create a network of city-owned grocery stores. It's like a public option for produce. We will redirect city funds from corporate supermarkets to city-owned grocery stores, whose mission is lower prices, not price gouging.
Okay, so think about that. The government will own the Walmart, so to speak. They don't have Walmarts infamously in New York City, but the bodegas will be owned in part by the freaking government itself. Soviet Union vibes, obviously communist Cuba. Castro is smiling from his grave up from hell.
These stores will operate without a profit motive or having to pay property.
Bro, what? Wait a minute. So these stores...
Profit motive or having to pay property taxes or rent.
So he's saying the government would theoretically run a grocery store without having to pay rent or taxes. So that how the hell does a small business owner with a bodega compete with a government-funded apparatus of which doesn't have to pay the taxes that the small business owner has to pay? This is utterly socialism. Like, this is just insane. Insane. And this guy won. Now, mind you, I'm the one sober as a judge saying, actually, this is good for MAGA. Now, I'll explain.
And we'll pass on those savings to you.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, pass on the savings as you increase the taxes on most New Yorkers. So why is this victory a good thing? Well, let me just really get to the bottom of it. So here you see a defeated moderate Democrat, Andrew Cuomo. Now, say what you will about Cuomo, he would at least run New York to the point where if you were to go 5 years into the future, you'd say, okay, New York is vaguely the same. Still kind of sucks, but it's all right, I guess. Now, with Zoran, what I'm anticipating, and this is a concept called Accelerationism, where you kind of want things to get worse so that they can get better. Now, what do I mean? You know how they say the whole mantra of the fourth turning, where weak time or hard times create strong men, and then good times create weak men. Well, in this case, Zoran will screw things up monumentally with the socialism and raising taxes. That basically New Yorkers will come to their senses. Ideally, we're praying that happens, to where they say, actually, okay, maybe the Republicans have something right. Okay, think about, and again, I don't know about this personally, but imagine how we're 50. You remember people like Ed Koch, or in particular David Dinkins, talk about the 70s, 80s, and then Rudy Giuliani as a right-wing Republican comes in, harsh on crime, basically invents the whole RICO statute to prosecute the mafia and what else. And then basically crime gets trampled, and then Republicans under Bloomberg even have a good reign of about 15 years in New York City. And then obviously neoliberal Democrats take over, and it just went to crap again. But anyway, what I'm saying here is that the whiplash effect might happen. A pendulum might swing back. Bernie Sanders, AOC, who's fat now, by the way, I might make a video on that. Comment down below if you want that. Anyways, basically what I'm saying here is that things might get so garbage in New York that people might change their minds and change their tune. By the time we reach 2032, maybe, not 28, that's a little soon, we'll see a New York at the state level that might be competitive. Now, if you look at New York, the state, electorally, a ton of votes, but not only that, but if you just were to isolate the Manhattan and obviously the city itself from the rest of the state, upstate New York is clearly very Republican. In fact, the margin of victory for Kamala Harris in New York was only half of that of Biden's. So give that another 8 years plus Zoran being mayor for several years, running the city into the freaking ground. You don't see poor Latinos, people that own small businesses, getting their businesses taken from them due to the fact that the government's subsidizing their own city-owned grocery stores, and we might see a seismic shift in the electorate going forward. Now, you might be asking, Lalo, how do you know he's going to run the city into the ground? And besides, maybe I'm stereotyping him. Maybe a 33-year-old Muslim immigrant that's pro Palestine, pro LGBT at the same time, who's an avowed socialist endorsed by Bernie Sanders. Maybe I'm misreading him. Maybe he'll do good. Okay, well, let me just take him at his word. So he's here proposing to freeze rent. Now, the thing about this is that when you freeze the rent, who the hell is footing the bill here? Now, when you read this, I don't expect you to, but the TLDR is like he's going to basically stop the prices from increasing. Now, how does a landowner, or what do you call it, landlord, make profit if he keeps the same price on the rent? It doesn't make sense. And on top of this, again, it'd be one thing if he said the New York City tax base would fund and subsidize housing, but they're not doing that. He's not proposing raising taxes on this specific issue to fund that issue. He's just expecting the landlords to eat the profit. Like, what the hell are they going to do? In fact, if anything, while, yeah, he's complaining that people that own apartments are leaving New York because of the prices, you'll probably see landlords just give up on renting out to people because they can't make profit. Now, this one's somewhat interesting. This one's called Cracking Down on Bad Landlords. So this one seems well intentioned, but so many liberals also title everything in a nonchalant way. However, when you read this, you'll notice that he posits that about 10% of landlords have inadequate heat in the winter for their tenants. And then in addition to that, you've also got an allegation of about a quarter of the people that rent apartments, they complain about mice and rats in their houses, which I believe. However, the thing here is that his solution to this is to allow for the people to call up the government, the city government, have them fix whatever problem is going on with their apartment, and then the government is going to send a bill to the landlord. Now, the problem with this, even though it seems like that would work on paper, is that, again, there's no funding mechanism for this. There is no tax money going into this. Who is footing the bill here? Well, the landlord. But see, if the landlords could really afford to fix these places and not go out of business, so to speak, then they would have fixed it by now, because who the hell wants their tenants living with rats? What it seems to be the case for me is that there's a lot of immigrants that are used to like rats in their houses and they deal with it. And that's the way it ought to be, in my opinion, because the money isn't there in New York. What this is going to do is fix some problems, but then have landlords saddled with debt they can't pay for. And so then more landlords are going to leave New York. Now, notice, a lot of the poor people, middle class, working class, have been leaving New York because it's oppressive to be there. But when you're basically getting the rich to foot the bill for more stuff because of the socialist paradigm, they're going to leave too. Now, who pays all of the freaking taxes in New York City? I've read somewhere that 40% of the taxes in New York City are from like literally 10 people. 10 people pay that. Those people on Wall Street are just going to leave. This one's another doozy. The Department of Community Safety, guys. So he is, instead of saying, I'm going to increase the NYPD by 20% because God knows crime is crazy in New York City, he's saying he's going to make a new department of community safety. Now, this is really just DEI 2.0. Now, he's saying that he's going to increase the funding for hate violence prevention programs by 800%. Okay? Hate violence prevention programs. Okay. Now you're getting mugged. Does that have to do with the hate violence thing? Now, who's doing the mugging? Obvious question there. Here, he's proposing making buses free, which I guess is kind of a good thing. However, two questions. Number one, if buses are free, how the hell can you guarantee there won't be a bunch of crackheads and hobos on there? Oh, yeah, there will be, actually. How are grandmothers going to feel safe with that going on in their buses, subways, etc.? Number two, okay, the buses are free. Who the is going to pay for this? Now, if you said, I'm going to increase taxes by, let's say, 0.2%, and then that'll pay for it, I can believe that. There's no, like, okay, you're promising something, but what am I getting? Like, what's the trade-off? Or are you just lying? Now, finally, to how he's going to pay for it, folks. Taxing corporations and the 1%. Zorhan has a plan to bring down the cost, okay? How is he going to do it? His revenue plan would raise the corporate tax rate to match New Jersey's 11.5%, bringing in $5 billion. And he will tax the wealthiest 1% of New Yorkers, those making more than $1 million annually, a flat 2% tax, okay? So he's going to increase taxes by 2% on the top 1%, which is people making above $1 million, which in New York is not that much. In fact, if I'm making 150 grand in Phoenix, I'd probably prefer that than $1 million in New York, just knowing how prices work over there. So, I mean, really, you're just taxing the upper middle class at that point, actually. Now, that being said, Again, I already told you guys, very few people pay the majority of the taxes in New York City. Not to sound like Mitt Romney with this 47% comment, but that was actually right. That the rich pay the lion's share. Now, when you're saying, and this is a political tactic by far, where you're saying, I'm going to raise the taxes to match New Jersey's, what you're saying, and what my retort would be actually is, okay, then what stops anybody in New York from just going to New Jersey? Because it's the same tax. And God knows that all the other stuff tertiary around, just not counting taxes, in New Jersey is probably cheaper across the river than it is in NYC itself. So again, a lot of stupid college kids would just read the headline and just say, "Oh, well, it matches this other state's taxes. It's going to be fair." No, it's not. It's awful. Like I said, you can be anti-rich as a socialist loser if you're a pro Zorhan or whatever, but you have to acknowledge that you're going to lose the rich out of your place if their taxes get too high. This is not the Soviet Union. You cannot just arrest the kulaks and put them in the gulags. Rhymes. In America, cities have other cities to compete with. And so if your taxes are too damn high in Phoenix, they might have to go to Tucson and vice versa. New Yorkers might have to go to New Jersey and Newark and wherever else. This guy's a bonehead. Two last topics before I go. This guy's Trump proofing NYC. Now, what does he mean? Basically, he's complaining that Eric Adams has been complying with ICE, as in following the law, okay? And he's basically saying that he's going to make New York great again, as in he's going to implement sanctuary city laws back. Okay, he'll make NYC an LGBTQIA plus sanctuary city and protect reproductive rights. This is your candidate. By the way, Muslim, by the way. Muslim, by the way. That okay, you being pro LGBTQIA plus, that's a new thing, I guess, as a Muslim, is like if I'm a vegan and I'm eating a baconator, hey, I'm loving this triple whopper. It's keto. It's vegan, by the way. I'm a vegan. I'm a vegan. Wow, I'm loving this bacon. This is great. Yeah, it's kosher. This is a fucking joke. Now, finally, and most importantly, Mr. Future Presumptive Mayor Zorhan will be making NYC an LGBTQIA plus sanctuary city and creating the Office of LGBTQIA plus Affairs. There we go. Perfect. Yes. Yes, that's what we've been all waiting for. Screw the grocery prices. I'm just glad he's getting to the bottom of the LGBTQIA plus affairs. Awesome. Taxpayer money going to that. Tax the rich and pay for trans protection. I am a fan. No, no. In all seriousness, this is terrible. However, like I said, he's such a bad candidate that if he does such a bad job, I think New Yorkers might actually vote Republican going down the line. Here's hoping. Silver lining. I'm coping. Anyways, see ya. Like the video if you liked it. Subscribe if you want more content like this. Comment down below what your thoughts are on the election. And anyways, I'll see y'all in the next one. Adios.